Produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite shots. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with them three, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each other.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Man, this time they'll do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host.
Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, it's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 3rd day of June here in 2019. How's it going out there? Hope you all enjoyed your weekend, enjoyed the last week. Back on my normal day and time after last week being pushed off to Tuesday due to it being being Memorial Day, last week. But hey, still a lot of things to talk about this week. A lot of things on my mind with baseball, mixing some off-the-court notes in the NBA as well. But the NBA, of course, is where I want to start today with the NBA Finals. So about damn time. By the time that game started, Game 1 on Thursday night, it had felt like an eternity since I had seen any basketball. I mean, hell, the Warriors hadn't played in so long, you almost forgot that they existed. The fact they have a 10-day layoff. And even with the Rockets, they had clinched on the previous Saturday night. So you were without basketball for, 5 days there? And it doesn't help the fact that I still don't understand this. The game's taking place up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, all right? As far as I know, that is on Eastern time zone. Why the hell is the game starting at 9 o'clock? And it's not like the Warriors just flew in that day, that they had to adjust to the time or whatever. You could have put the game on at 8 o'clock, had it over and done with by 10:30, and it wouldn't have hurt anyone. What, a 5 o'clock start out on the West Coast is going to really be a problem for anyone? And then, not just that, the fact that you have not 1, but 2 days off in between games 1 and 2. I understand having the 2 games off now between games 2 and 3 because you have to travel. Anytime there's travel involved in a series, I can understand 2 days off. But when you're staying in the same area, do you really need 2 days off? I guess part of it is they want to make sure in case there's anyone that had to leave the game due to some kind of cramping, minor injury, or whatnot, that they're able to get that extra day of rest so you can have these two teams at as close to 100% as possible. And that's what you want, so that there's no asterisks there. There's no, someone had an excuse, like the Rockets had tried to pull all this year, saying that, they would have won the Western Conference Finals last year if Chris Paul didn't get hurt in Game 5. Well, hey, the Warriors lost Kevin Durant in Game 5 against you guys this year, and yet they didn't lose a game after that until we got to the finals. And what this series is showing so far is that anyone that tried to start that false narrative out there of, the Warriors are a better team without Kevin Durant, can now go away and shut up. Now, I think the likes of Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, they preached on that theme a little too much of saying, they're not a better team without him. I think most people who have a little bit of common sense in them and aren't just trying to have a hot take so they can make headlines would have realized the Warriors are not better without Kevin Durant. I didn't think the Warriors lost game one because, they didn't have Kevin Durant. There were two things. Yes, there was a little bit of rust in the mist here. There was, it doesn't matter how many times you scrimmage, how many times you play pickup games, if you bring in officials trying to make it feel like a real game day atmosphere. 10 days off in between an NBA game is a lot, especially during the playoffs, especially when there are no, New York Knicks, Cleveland Cavaliers, Phoenix Suns. There's no scrubs at this point. You are facing a team that is either at your level or very close to it. They weren't going to be getting the luck and the fortune of going up against some 8 seed coming out of the Eastern Conference. No, they're going up against a Toronto Raptors team that not only came back from down 2-0 against the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, Milwaukee Bucks, but they've won 4 straight games in that series against a team that never seemed to adjust. So you had to think 10 days off was going to do something against the Warriors. The other thing is one of the main questions that I asked last week heading into this series, and that was, Kawhi is going to get his. You know that he's going to give you everything he's got. He's going to try and be Superman for the Toronto Raptors. But there's going to be those moments he needs a break. There's going to be those times where he's getting double teamed by the Warriors, and the Warriors, that seemed to be their game plan in game one, to get the ball out of Kawhi's hands at all costs, saying, anyone but you on this night. Let's force someone else to beat us. And that someone else turned out to be none other than Pascal Siakam, who had, by these standards, probably the best game of his career. We know in, about 3 weeks' time, in all likelihood, he's going to win the Most Improved Player of the Year award. But fair or unfair, you are judged in large by what you do in the postseason. When the light is shining its brightest, do you have the guts, the gumption in you to step up on the big stage and show out? And in game one, he did that. Because it was clear what the Warriors were doing. They were going to make anyone else beat them. And Siakam, as good a regular season he had, there were times he's disappeared throughout the postseason, especially against the Sixers and against the Milwaukee Bucks. So here was a chance for him to show that he could be that number 2 guy. And he showed out on Thursday night. 32 points, 14 of which came in the third quarter. And the third quarter is usually that time when the Warriors take control of the game and go on those runs where it seems like the opposition has no answer for them. But Siakam was the answer against the Warriors on this night in the third quarter. Early on, made a couple threes to get his confidence going, and then once he got going, once he saw what they were doing against Kawhi, he was able to drive the lane seemingly unguarded, untouched for the rest of the night. But it wasn't all just him. It wasn't all just his performance. I mean, it's good to have that Robin to Kawhi being Batman. And on this night, you could actually argue that Siakam was the Batman to Kawhi being Robin. You have to get help from the others. And one guy that had disappeared throughout the postseason, and seemingly you're wondering where his confidence level was at, was Danny Green. And I thought it was big for him to have a couple threes there in the first half, kind of get his mojo going again. As well, you saw Marcus Gasol hit a couple of wide open threes in the first half. What was so funny about Marcus Gasol's threes is the fact that he catches the ball. I believe on one of them, Iguodala's the closest one to him, and Gasol had enough time to stop, look around, be like, wait a minute, I'm wide open here. They're not going to send anyone at me. Set his feet and hit a couple of wide open threes to help the Raptors' cause here. You also have to appreciate the work of Van Vliet, who, he gives you 15 points, but the stat sheet doesn't tell the entire story with this guy. I mean, this is a guy that, came out of college, had to, at Wichita State, had to battle and grind for everything he's got, and was the last guy to make their roster a couple of years ago. And now he's become such a prominent part of that bench mob they talk about with guys like him, Ibaka, Powell, and especially with his work, not just scoring 15 points in Game 1, but the defense that he played against Steph Curry, and all throughout this series, the fact that he was up in Curry's face for most of the game. Hell, got some help when Curry came near the arc with double teams aided by Marcus Gasol there. And the Rockets won a game that I think was very important because the Rockets seemed like Rockets. I keep calling them the Rockets, the Raptors. Excuse me. If I've been calling them the Rockets all show, please excuse that blunder. The Raptors. I felt Game 1 was more important for them because the Warriors, they've been there. They've done that. They've won the 3 of the last 4 NBA Finals. This is a new stage for them. Every time they go along here, it's been a new stage for them. And, in that setting, Kawhi Leonard is the only player on the team that had, or prominent player, that had previous NBA Finals experience. I mean, Green and Ibaka played in the finals, but you're not really concerned about them as far as their impact. At the most you're going to get 20 minutes a night out of both of them at the most part. Sometimes you stretch it a little bit with Green, but with the other guys, Siakam, Gasol, Lowry, Van Vliet, first time ever for these guys in an NBA Finals, and they all reacted very well. I mean, Lowry played some pretty good defense, seemed to get to all of the loose basketballs that were kind of the 50-50 situations, played some good defense on Curry in that game. And, it would have set a bad tone for the series if they had lost Thursday night after, having a shorter time between games than did the Warriors. A Warriors team still without Kevin Durant. They did bring back DeMarcus Cousins, which I'm definitely amazed to me, the fact that after only 7 weeks removed from tearing his quad, he's able to come back and play a little bit in Game 1. You didn't want to, and with how jacked up that crowd was going into Game 1, you didn't want to set a bad tone early in the series because then doubt would have started creeping in. People will start saying, oh, this is going to be a quick series, Warriors are going to sweep, or Warriors in 5. Now at least you get a little bit of a comfort area. Although I think that comfort area for the Raptors turned out to be too much. And they got a little too bit cute, a little bit too comfortable with themselves. And you watched last night; it was fully on display because it was a slow start to the game for the Warriors, as it seems to in most of these playoff games. I mean, Curry didn't score in the first quarter, didn't start getting going until about 4 minutes left in the first half, and the Raptors looked like they were going to take control of this game and start putting some doubt in the Warriors' minds. They're up by as many as 13, 14 points in the first half, but let the Warriors go on a little bit of a run here to end the half, get it to about a 5-point game before halftime, and here's where they lost the game. This next stretch is exactly where the Rockets lost, because you have the Warriors come out of the locker room, and there must be something that Carr says to them, the fact that they have had 6 straight games of losing by or 5 straight games coming into this of losing by double digits at half. They're losing by double digits a couple minutes prior to half, close it within 5. Must reinstall the philosophy of, don't just get a good shot, get the best shot, because the Warriors come out on an 18-0 run, an extended 24-1 run to take control of the game, had a lead as high as 13 points in the third quarter, and the Raptors just never seemed to have an answer in that early stages of the third quarter. I mean, how at home in a playoff game, not just a playoff game, but in the NBA Finals, do you let the other team come out of the locker room and go on an 18-0 run against you? Especially in the league that they play in now, where everything seems to be called a foul. I mean, you can get called for a foul for just breathing, and you can't even get to the foul line, get a point there, kind of calm the situation down here. I mean, did you not watch the end of the series against the Rockets for the Warriors, or Warriors Trailblazers? This is what they do. Third quarter, they come out like a man possessed and crush your soul, crush your spirit. And on top of that, the fact that, Pascal Siakam must have thought that Game 1 instantly made him an all-NBA player or got him into the NBA Hall of Fame, because as aggressive and determined he was in Thursday's game, last night he was as passive as you can be. Made a couple shots in the fourth quarter, but was 5 for 18 from the field, and it killed the Raptors. Not just that run, but the fact that no one else stepped up for him. Gasol and Ibaka combined for 13 points. And that killed them based on the fact that the biggest adjustment that the Warriors made was not how they guarded Kawhi Leonard, because you still had Iguodala on him for most of the game. But the biggest adjustment they made was starting DeMarcus Cousins. And you wondered, all right, how much does Boogie have in him? How much is he going to play? And the man, prior to Thursday night, had not played in 7 weeks, goes out and puts up 11 and 10 in 28 minutes. And in the fourth quarter especially, at a time where the Raptors seem to be getting every second chance opportunity, every offensive rebound, Kerr, after a quick break, respite on the bench, sticks him right back in the game, and it seemed like he was getting to every loose ball possible and giving the Warriors every chance to hold on to this lead, which they wound up doing, tying the series up at 1 apiece. Yeah, you can say, 11 and 10 isn't great. It isn't impressive as far as a stat line goes. But the fact that he did that after all the time he's missed from a quadricep tear, when he hadn't played 20 plus minutes in an NBA game in 7 weeks, on the road like that, is very impressive. You got to give him a lot of credit. To me, if he wasn't the MVP of last night, it was definitely Draymond Green. I mean, they took turns kind of alternating as that role as point forward on this team, and you needed the Boogie, as it would turn out, to step up, because the Warriors turned into almost a mass unit, a walking wounded. You have Iguodala, who at points could barely stand up last night. He's got to go out there like an hour before the game just to get ready to play. They lose Looney early on in the first half to a chest contusion. He doesn't come back. You lose with about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Thompson leaves with a left hamstring injury. Hopefully he's ready to go for Game 3 on Wednesday night. Now, they did get one saving grace. Quinn Cook turned out to be a key late supporter for them. Had a couple clutch, wide open, mind you, three-pointers. The three that turned out to be the killer was the Iguodala three with about 7 seconds to go in the game. It shows you that they got a little bit lucky on that situation, because it turned into a kind of a chaotic scrum for the ball there, because Van Vliet seemed unsure. All right, am I going to foul Steph Curry, or are we going to try and force a turnover here, try and play this out? Because remember, there was a 3-second difference in the shot clock compared to the game clock. And Curry almost threw the ball away, made a kind of ridiculous pass over 2 defenders to Livingston, who was able to hit Iguodala there for the wide open three that sealed it for the 109-104 victory. But man, talk about hanging on by the skin of your teeth there with all that went on with the Warriors. This is the one time that I'm glad now that they got 2 days off in between games. And yeah, as good as it was for the Rockets to win Game 1, I thought they took Game 2 for granted last night. It wouldn't have locked things down, wouldn't have won the series, because we've seen teams come back from 2-0 in the finals. Hell, Golden State would have been as ravenous and geared to go for Wednesday and Friday night in Game 3 and 4, especially the fact that no matter what happens after these finals, they're closing the Oracle for good, moving to their new arena in San Fran next year. So they're not going to want to close that building on a sour note. But the shows you that the Raptors have never been in this kind of spot before, because they did not show a great sense of urgency last night. Turned out to be a killer for them. And now you're just waiting to see what's going to happen with Looney. What's going to happen with Klay Thompson. And does the result of the MRI today for Klay Thompson, does that at all speed up the timeline for Kevin Durant's return? Because the longer this series goes, the more of a chance that you give Durant to play in this series, the more of a chance you get him to heal and be ready for a potential Game 4 or Game 5. I'm not confident we're going to see him in Game 3, but who knows? Maybe he practices tomorrow, because Tuesday is going to be the key day to see if he plays in Game 3. If he practices tomorrow, there's at least a chance of him playing in Game 3 on Wednesday night. But so far, if you're an objective fan like myself, if you're someone that has no real rooting interest, just want a long series, so far you kind of got what you wanted. 1-1, going back to Golden State. Now we're going to see what the Raptors are truly made of here, because it's going to be their first, for most of these guys, their first road game in an NBA Finals. See if someone could step up and be that second guy for Kawhi Leonard, like Siakam was in Game 1. Maybe, Siakam does it again in Games 3 or 4. But I'm telling you right now, I think as much as some people may have thought, they had sense of urgency, and I will agree with that for Game 2, Game 3 is a very crucial game for them. Because they lose Game 3 on Wednesday night. We're going to see on Friday night what this team is truly made of. We're going to see what their true grit is, their true determination. Because, it's one thing to be trailing 2-0 against the Bucks, knowing that, we're going back home. It's another thing to be trailing in a series when you're still on the road. And playing somewhere like Golden State, I mean, you could see them crumble and this be a quicker series than we hope for if they don't get at least one of these two games. And the one that they better hope they get is Game 3, because if they don't get Game 3, Warriors could be smelling blood in the water, especially if Kevin Durant returns and it gives them anything at all in Game 4. All right, a lot left to get to over the next, about 35, 40 minutes or so here. A couple other NBA notes to get to, mix in some baseball talk here as well. A lot of key series going on this weekend, not just Yankees, Red Sox, as well as, once again, a plea for Major League Baseball to make some changes. And this is one I'm serious about. It is not the designated hitter to the National League. It's a more pressing matter that needs to be talked about here. So try and mix in a little bit of everything, see what may come down over the hour here. So it's Monday. Whatever you may be doing, sit back, relax, help put your feet up on the table, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoons. A couple quick reminders here. As you know, you can find this podcast each and every single week on Facebook.com/Keeping It Sports with M3. Of course, if you're listening to this right now, you know that. But hey, tell your friends about or where they can find this podcast. Tell them about this podcast and to check it out. Each and every single Monday afternoon, you can watch it live on Facebook. Facebook Watch. Look up Keeping It Sports with M3, or watch it on the YouTube channel I've now set up for the podcast. Same title, Keeping It Sports with M3. Find that there. I'll post YouTube link to the podcast page as well. But if you don't feel like looking at me for an hour or so, that's fine. Just listen to the podcast version. As I mentioned, you can find it at facebook.com/keepingitsports3, as well as you can find the link on the new Twitter account I've recently created for this, at Keeping It Sports. Hey, unfortunately, Twitter does not allow more than 15 characters in a name, so I had to keep it to at Keeping It Sports, but same remains there. Find the podcast there each and every single week. Check it out, listen to it. Send me any questions, comments, thoughts, opinions you have of anything going on in the world of sports. You can either send it via the Twitter page, comment it on the Facebook page, or if you watch on YouTube, you can post something in the comments there. And as long as it's something relevant, as long as you have a good take, I'll be sure to get to it at some point in a future edition of this podcast. Or if I do so on another podcast I do every once in a while called M3's Opinion. I record that on my phone through this app known as Anchor and post that every once in a while. Usually try to do 2 of those per week, and I'll be doing one after each game of the NBA Finals. Except today, I had this podcast to do, so we'll be on the lookout for that one. Anyway, we're getting off track here. Now, a couple quick things I want to get to. Number one, I'm only touching base on this because I saw it on SportsCenter the other day, and I guess it's relevant if SportsCenter's going to cover it, even though we've seen times in the past where ESPN has given some ridiculous amount of time or coverage to wrestling, which, even though I'm a fan of it, it's not actually a sport. But over the last several years, they have been covering the National Spelling Bee. And I just happened to come across this the other day on the Bottom Line. I had to fix my eyes or adjust my eyes, hoping that I saw what I saw correctly. Did I really see that they had not just a tie in this year's National Spelling Bee, but an 8-way tie? Because they ran out of words. So they decided, rather than let's go through Webster's Dictionary or the thesaurus to find even harder words, because they ran out of words that they felt qualified for this competition, they decided to declare the final 8 participants as co-winners of this. I mean, what are we doing here? Are you kidding me? Really? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. Maybe this makes me sound heartless, but I am sick of the society that we've turned into where, everybody needs a trophy, everybody needs a hug, everybody needs a thumbs up. Make sure every Bill, Johnny, Susie out there walks out with a smile on their face. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. An 8-way tie? Come on, man. I mean, isn't that what life is about? Success and learning from your failures? I mean, what is that teaching these kids if you just say, all right, we're declaring a tie? I mean, it bothers me enough that we have ties in the NFL and they don't play to a winner there. But an 8-way tie? Absolutely ridiculous. I almost threw up when I saw this. It disgusted me, and it's something that really doesn't even matter in the long term of things. But 8-way tie? A couple other things I came across this week, and both of these involving the NBA. Last Tuesday night, they did a SportsCenter special that simulcasts on both ESPN and ESPN News, hosted by Stephen A. Smith, one of the best at covering NBA. If you ask me, follow him on all social media platforms. I was right up there with Adrian Wojnarowski as far as his coverage with the NBA and knowing the ins and outs of this league. So he hosted a SportsCenter special previewing the NBA Finals and had Michael Wilbon on there, had former Lakers team president and NBA Hall of Famer, the great Irving Magic Johnson on there, as well as Los Angeles Clippers head coach Doc Rivers. And it always feels weird to me when an active head coach or active players are part of a preview for a championship series or championship final, because you wonder, what kind of opinions are they going to give? Are they going to give an objective opinion? Are they going to have some kind of ridiculous take because this is their time to shine as far as media coverage goes? And they were talking about the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard. And let's face it, it's been no secret at all. It's been one of the big secrets in big talked about secrets in NBA circles. When it comes to Kawhi Leonard, we all know he's a free agent this coming summer, and the LA Clippers have made him their number one target. Although they can't publicly discuss it because that would be tampering, it's been no secret to anyone. Well, Doc Rivers made a very simple comment comparing Kawhi Leonard to Michael Jordan, saying this is the closest we've seen to a Jordan-like player since Michael Jordan. And Doc Rivers, a couple days later, received a $50,000 fine, or should I say the LA Clippers received a $50,000 fine on Friday for tampering because of the comments made by Doc about Kawhi on that edition of SportsCenter. And I get it that the NBA, they have to stick to protocol. They have to stick to what they've done in the past, because remember earlier this year when Magic Johnson was still president of the Lakers basketball operations, he got fined a couple times for comments he made about both Ben Simmons and Anthony Davis, as well as LeBron and the Lakers got a fine for tampering, or a warning for tampering, I believe, for LeBron suggesting that they should play together. It just, I don't know, it felt kind of ticky-tacky to me, this kind of $50,000 fine, especially, it's barely a slap on the wrist, because remember who you're fining. Steve Ballmer is the owner of the Clippers, and $50,000, that's not even pocket change to him. That's hanging around in his ashtray or hanging around in the cup holder in his car. Well, the rest of us have, $3 in change just hanging out there in the cup holders of our cars. He's got 50 grand just laying around like it's nothing. So, I mean, the entire Clipper organization probably had a good laugh about that. It does also show that, like I mentioned before, when you go on TV and make your comments so public like that, you got to watch what you're going to say, especially in the NBA, where they take seemingly every comment these days as tampering, even just complimenting someone and giving them high praise. The other thing I saw in the NBA this past week is the article posted by Adrian Wojnarowski. I believe it was last Wednesday, if I have it correct. As we know, the Houston Rockets, for the second straight year, had a season that they considered a failure in this regime, in this group as we know them. So it's now being reported that the Rockets have been aggressively exploring all options to improve their roster as any team would. But even going as far as making all draft picks and players available. And in this it states, now James Harden is they would prefer not to trade him, but if they are blown over by trades, they would at least have to talk about it. When it says all players available, that includes Chris Paul. Now, they've been more heavily pushing trading Clint Capella because, hey, we all knew at the time when they signed him to that 5-year, $90 million contract last summer, it was kind of a ridiculous contract to give a guy that takes advantage of a lot of double teams toward Paul and Harden. But it shows you that the Rockets, are they really going to break this entire thing up now? Because, let's face it, they are kind of capped out. The fact that Chris Paul is making, $40 million a year, James Harden making another $35 million a year. They got Capella's contract, contracts to a couple of their other guys. That they're essentially in a spot where they really can't do anything this summer. This is the roster that they have, for better or worse, and they're looking to make a drastic change in things here. Even you're seeing drastic changes as far as Mike D'Antoni closed off negotiations with the Rockets as far as a contract extension, and is just going to coach out the final year of his contract. So, wow. Back-to-back failed seasons of losing to the Golden State Warriors in this fashion, blowing a 3-2 lead last year and losing a Game 7 at home, and then blowing an opportunity when Kevin Durant gets hurt in Game 5, have had the Rockets GM Daryl Morey just becoming extremely stressed out, becoming extremely desperate, looking for any way to make change. And I don't know how the Rockets are going to make those changes, because as I said, Chris Paul, he's not getting any younger. He's been hurt each of the last 2 years, and he has the worst contract in the NBA other than maybe John Wall's contract, who's not even going to play for the next year and a half. So I'm not really sure where the Rockets go here, but you could see a summer of extreme change for them, even at a time when the Warriors could be losing Kevin Durant. The Rockets realize we got to make some kind of change here, and as I said, I'm not sure what kind of change that could be. Gonna take another break here. When I come back, turn my attention to baseball. We have the baseball's draft coming up tonight, which is very important for a few people out there. And as I mentioned before, there is a change that needs to be made in baseball, and it feels like they're sitting on their hands about it. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
Thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. June 3rd. That means tonight is the annual MLB First Year Players Draft. And this is a night that people have been looking forward to for a while now. And no, I'm not talking about all of the kids coming out of college or prep schools, high schools, looking to get drafted and begin living out their dream as professional baseball players. No. The people I'm talking about are the two prominent free agents that have still been sitting out there for the first 2 months of the season, but in reality, this day has been 7 months in waiting for Craig Kimbrel, Dallas Keuchel, each of them's respective families, friends, and agents. Because due to franchise tag or whatever the official title they call for that that was placed on them by the Red Sox and Astros respectively last year entering free agency. That meant if they signed with any team, that team would have to give up a draft pick to either the Red Sox or Astros respectively to the Red Sox for Kimbrel, to the Astros for Keuchel. That coincided with the fact that each man was asking for too much money by these teams' estimations in free agency, has led to both of them still available on June 3rd and having to wait out this spot. Well, at 12:01 this morning, all of that changed because they were no longer tied to a draft pick. They could sign with any team, and it wouldn't cost that team a draft pick. So we'll see how fast and furious the action is potentially to get one of these guys. And now a little side note here to Tony Clark and the Players Association. This might be something you want to look into at the next collective bargaining negotiations. The collective bargaining agreement, I believe, is up after the 2021 season, if I have that correctly. You don't want prominent free agents sitting out there, 50, 60 games into the season just because their free agency is tied to a draft pick. Especially, Craig Kimbrel, a guy that has, over 300 career saves to his name. Yes, he's struggled at times in the postseason, but the guy's still only 30 years old. He's had some remarkable years. He's got 333 career saves, still averages well over a strikeout per inning. It averaged the last year 13 strikeouts per 9. His walks were up a little bit, but still a very good closer. Has been an all-star 7 of the last 8 years. You have a guy in Dallas Keuchel who is a good starting pitcher. I don't think he's ever been as good as that Cy Young season he had. It was kind of that, and then a bunch of very good, not great seasons after that. But still, there are plenty of teams out there that could use him in their starting rotation. And it does have to send up a warning flag to other teams, though. 2, actually. A, you sign them now. In all likelihood, they're not going to be ready for you until after the All-Star break. Maybe Kimbrel a little bit earlier due to him being a relief pitcher, but it doesn't matter how many simulated games they've thrown or pitched in at their respective high schools. Doesn't matter what Scott Boras says. Dallas Keuchel's not going to be ready for a while. Craig Kimbrel as well. So you're going to need some time for these guys to get ready. Also, the other thing that should worry you, why did the teams they came from not want to re-sign them? Because each guy could have been used by their respective team. The Red Sox still don't have a closer. I mean, you look at their bullpen; it's been okay, but that's the thing they're missing is a lockdown closer. And even as much as he struggled for them in the postseason at times, Kimbrel has been the lights out for them the last 3 or 4 years since they acquired him from the Padres. And Dallas Keuchel as well. The Astros elected to let him go as a free agent and go with the likes of Wade Miley, Colin McHugh, and Brad Peacock in their rotation to start this season. And I don't know about you, but he's still better than any of those guys. And this is a guy that had a 3.74 ERA and pitched 200 innings last year in that bandbox of a ballpark. I don't know. It's surprising to me that the Astros decided not to bring him back, and it's something baseball's got to look at with their next collective bargaining agreement. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, I mentioned a change baseball's got to make, and that right there is one of them. This franchise tag in baseball, as well as adding the DH to the National League, the shift, adjusting the rules as far as what can be done there. Those are changes that baseball, I think, needs to greatly look into. But there's something even more pressing that they need to look into. And I'm not talking about, discuss it, review it. No. There needs to be no discussions in this matter. There needs to be no BSing, dancing around in this. About a year ago, they expanded league-wide the netting as far as in foul territory. They expanded it. It used to be the netting went from home plate to the beginning of each dugout. Then they, after some incidents that have occurred over the last couple of years with line drives going into the stands, they insisted upon each team expanding the netting to the far ends of their dugouts. I'm sorry, they need to expand it more. It needs to be foul pole to foul pole. Because what happened last Wednesday night should never happen at a baseball game. Fourth inning, it's Cubs Astros, fourth inning, game's on ESPN, and in Albert Almora Jr.'s at bat, he hits a line drive foul into the stands along the third baseline, and it hits a 4-year-old girl in the face. She had to be taken to the hospital. Thank God she's going to be okay. It sounds like she's going to make a full recovery. But that is something that should never happen. I don't care if you're a teenager, 25 years old, you're an elder statesman in your 50s, 60s, whatever. Doesn't matter who you are at a major league game. There is no way, if you're sitting in the foul territory, that you have enough time to protect yourself from a line drive coming in at what's got to be anywhere from 100 to 115 miles an hour and stop it from smacking you in the face. Especially in the day and age we live in. We know everybody's got a cell phone, everyone's got their electronic devices. They bring them to sporting events. You see it all the time. At every sporting event you flip on, people are looking down at their phones or whatnot, texting, reading something, sometimes not fully paying attention to the game. And they're essentially a sitting duck for another line drive to come back and hit them in the face. We saw an incident, I think it was out in LA last year, where a woman was hit in the face and was killed for it. Thankfully, we didn't have the same spot, and this girl's going to be okay, but this can be avoided. And for Major League Baseball to come out the next day and say, oh, we're going to take this matter under consideration, we're going to review it, is a bunch of garbage, right? There's no reviewing this situation. It's just now, instead of before when you could have been proactive in the situation, now be reactive and fix this situation. Extend the nettings to each foul line, especially where it can potentially help is in those foul balls that go near the stands. You don't have some dope reaching over trying to interfere with play, as well as protect fans. And I understand there's going to be those fans that say, no, I bring a glove to the game. I want to feel up close to the action. Please, believe me, you have a 4-year-old kid, you're going to feel so much better about yourself knowing that they're protected with the netting in front of them, having something there to prevent a foul ball from going in there and potentially killing them. I mean, is that what it's going to take? Is it going to take another person dying at a major league event because they got struck in the face by a baseball that was probably coming in at north of 110 miles an hour before Rob Manfred wakes the hell up and does the right thing here and not just suggests but orders all 30 major league teams expand the netting from foul pole to foul pole in foul territory to protect the livelihood of these fans. I mean, it's not that much to ask for. It is not that much to ask for. It's not going to affect the game in any way. And it's going to make parents feel so much safer about bringing their young children to the game. And hell, as I mentioned before, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're a teenager, you're someone in their 30s like me, an older adult, with how hard these guys hit the ball these days. They hit it harder than anybody's ever thrown a baseball. There's no way in the world you're getting your hands up and protecting yourself when you see a line drive coming at you that hard, that fast. And when you see a situation like this, and you see how emotional Albert Almora was, that he's crying on the field, that he is crying in the arms of a security guard as he's checking on this girl. You have Anthony Rizzo, even before this season, begging for baseball to expand the net. You see players around the league saying this. Should show you that you have a problem here on your hands, Manfred, and something that you need to address, not tomorrow, not next week, not in the future, right now. Don't let another game go by and risk the safety and livelihoods of your fans without having this precaution set up. You weren't proactive in this situation. Now be reactive. Gonna take a quick break here. Come back, close things up with some more baseball talk. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere. On air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands
thousands of grads in broadcast media careers. It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools. Redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
I'll see you next week. Welcome back to Keeping Sports with M3. Let's close it out strong here. And, while last segment ended on such a depressing note, let's get back to what baseball should be more about. And that's not worrying about the safety of the fans, not worrying about, what's going to happen with free agents that are still sitting out there after 55 games into the season. It's the on-the-field action that's what matters here. And you had several significant series taking place over the weekend. Astros, A's, Twins, Rays, Cardinals, Cubs, Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees, Red Sox, which, the Yankees could have dealt, I don't know if you want to call it a death nail to the Boston Red Sox with a win last night. But, hey, they put a little more pressure on the defending world champions by taking 2 out of 3 in the series. I thought it was a little bit overstated by ESPN last night how significant it was for David Price to get a win at Yankee Stadium in a Red Sox uniform. I mean, hell, if you're the Red Sox, you were just looking to salvage the series in any way possible. The things you take out of this from both teams is, one, the Red Sox need to do something about that bullpen. That bullpen's garbage, okay? You want to tell me Matt Barnes is big time? Please, the only Matt Barnes that I know of that are big time are the former NBA player and my friend that lives up in New York. Other than that, Matt Barnes is garbage. And he comes in with an 8-2 lead last night and almost threw the game away. Tried his hardest. They needed that little delay to say, the mound's messed up. Yeah, that's the reason Matt Barnes was walking the ballpark. So the Red Sox need to find a closer for that pen. And I don't know if that guy's available for them out there. I don't know what are they going to rely on, say, like the Mets falling out of it and being willing to trade Edwin Diaz? I mean, the Red Sox, with all the trades they've made in recent years, going to get the likes of Chris Sale, they've kind of ran their farm system barren now, and plus all of their young prospects, they're already here. I mean, Benintendi's here, Chavis is here, Devers is here. So I don't know where you're going to be turning as far as making trades to go get that big time closer. And for the Yankees, they need to add to this starting rotation. And I'm not looking at it from a short-term view. I'm looking at it from a long-term view. I'm looking at it from the fact that, yes, they have the best bullpen in baseball, but you can't keep running 4 or 5 guys out of that pen out there every night. I don't care if Patantas is coming back by the end of June. And as good as these guys have been, Canely, Ottavino, Britton, Chapman, Green is starting to pitch better and had to compared to the way April went for him. You're going to wear these guys out if you keep having your starters go 5 innings and having to rely on 4 guys a night to pitch out of that bullpen. You need to upgrade the starting rotation in some way, especially with the fact that you're running into an innings limit on Domingo Germán. Who knows when Severino's coming back? You have injury concerns with Paxton just returning off the IL, looking pretty good the other day. CC returned from the IL. Hap has been so far this year. And Tanaka, as good as he is, you're always concerned about injury with him. You need to add a big-time starter to this team. And I'm not talking about going and signing Dallas Keuchel. That's an easy move. Go out there and make a trade for Madison Bumgarner. I know people will say, Bumgarner in the last couple of years, he hasn't pitched like the Bumgarner we remember him being in all those postseasons with the Giants. But the Giants have stunk the last 2 years. And I know, it's easy to say that the effect that Justin Verlander it had on him being traded from the Astros to the Tigers, from Tigers to the Astros, made a big change in him, gave him a second life. I think doing that with Bumgarner could have the same effect on him, make it a trade for him, because, like I said, the Giants haven't been very good. There hasn't been the reason for him to have that, killer mindset. It's not like he's going out there to suck, but he hasn't had that, that extra gear put in place for him. And, remember, he's not even 30 years old yet. He's still only 29. So trade him somewhere like the Yankees, where he's going to get a second lease on life in his career and rejuvenate him, getting back in a postseason mindset. Because if you're a Yankee fan, you really want who do you want in a postseason series? Think about this. You want CC Sabathia pitching for you in a postseason game, or you want Madison Bumgarner? Seems like a very easy answer, especially because as much as I love CC, you're going to have to make a hard decision here, I think, as time goes on in this season. You may have to alienate him to long reliever in the bullpen, because you're not going to get as many 6-inning performances out of him like you did last night. There's going to be more of the 5 and fly and trying to go Ottavino in the 6th, Canely in the 7th, Britton in the 8th, Chapman in the 9th, going with 4 guys to protect him on a start-by-start basis. You really want to keep doing that, potentially risking fire and wearing out these guys by, say, the end of August. So you need to go out there and get that starter, especially if Severino isn't the Severino we expect out of him when he comes back in July at some point. Now, as I mentioned, plenty of other good series going on this weekend. The Astros went into Oakland and swept the A's, including a heartbreaking loss in extra innings for the A's over yesterday afternoon. And it killed any momentum the A's could have built, because they were 7.5 games back in the West going into yesterday or this weekend. Now they're 10.5 after this sweep. And let's face it, that series is on wrap. That division, is on wrap. The Astros are going to win it. It's just a matter of how many. And they're dealing with injuries to Altuve right now. Springer's had his share of injuries. Now Correa's on the IL for a rib injury that he claims he got while getting a massage. Please. I'm looking forward to the book coming out in 15 years and telling us the real story of what happened there. But any thoughts of the A's being that true contender, that true threat to the Astros this year, are falling by the wayside after the way this weekend went, getting swept, not just getting swept, but getting swept in your own home ballpark. The couple of the other series that took place, the Dodgers swept the Phillies. The Phillies are a team that needs to look for some bullpen help as well, giving up 7 runs in the 8th inning yesterday. And this Dodger team, they've been on fire in the last week and a half. They took 3 out of 4 against the Mets, and then just rolled over and destroyed the Phillies over the weekend. The National League West, another division that's essentially on lockdown, and I know the Rockies got back within 9 games of them over the weekend by sweeping the Blue Jays. They're on a 8-game winning streak, and they were thought to be the toughest test for the Dodgers over the course of this season. But you look at the Dodgers, the way Ryu's pitching, what you're getting from Walker Buehler and Clayton Kershaw, and then that lineup, who you've got one of the leading candidates for National League MVP in Cody Bellinger, and then a lineup full of guys you're like, who, what, where, Max Muncy, you're getting contributions from everywhere. It's not just a bunch of guys that are going out there and hitting 225, but jacking 20 home runs out of the ballpark already. No, this team just like slowly and methodically just kills you. We saw what they did to the Met bullpen last week, especially to Edwin Diaz in that 9th inning the other day when he gave up 4 runs and the only out he got was the walk-off sac fly. I mean, right now, they're the best team in the National League. I thought that their closest competition for that was the Cubs, but the Cubs go into St. Louis over the weekend and get swept. Even with Molina going on the injured list, get a strong 8 innings by Adam Wainwright yesterday, turning back the clocks, looking like the Wainwright of 10 years ago. And you got a little humble pie there, because remember, during the offseason, Chris Bryant had some not so friendly comments to make about St. Louis, saying that, oh, it's boring, who would want to live there? He got booed all weekend long, and what does he do? He goes 2 for 13 in the series with the 1 RBI and struck out 7 times. So, not the best of weekends for him. Now, back to the American League, kind of a sneaky series this weekend that I don't think too many people paid attention to, and that was the Twins going into Tampa and winning 3 of 4 against the Rays. The Twins now sit here at 40-18, best record in the American League. Last time they had the best record in the American League after 58 games, 1991. All they did that year was go on to win the World Series. Now they sit here 11.5 games ahead of the White Sox and Indians in the Central. And remember, they did that this weekend without Nelson Cruz, who had been on the injured list for the last 3 weeks. And they get him back today. He's been activated off the IL after a short rehab assignment. The problem I have with the Twins is twofold. One, is Barrios ready to be that guy, that number one that you can count on every single day and say, yeah, when he pitches, it's a win. That when he pitches, it's a rest day for the bullpen. That it's, as I said, it's a closed deal. And 2, if the postseason began right now, and we still have over 100 games to be played before we get there, still, 4 months of baseball, and who knows what can happen. But if the postseason began right now, here would be your postseason scenario. You would have in the American League wild card game, it would be the Rays going up against, the Texas Rangers, who are a percentage points ahead of the Red Sox. But for argument's sake, let's just say it's Rays Red Sox. The winner of that would potentially face the Houston Astros in the first round. And in the other series, you would have Twins against the Yankees. The Twins, for the last 20 years, have been the whipping boys of the New York Yankees. no matter if it's regular season, postseason, it's in Minnesota, New York, the Yankees have destroyed them. Even when the Twins come in on a hot streak. I got to see the Twins do something in a big spot before I can believe in them. And I don't consider a big spot going and winning 3 out of 4, say, in a series in Cleveland during the regular season. Because with the way Cleveland's playing, the injuries they have to their rotation, the slow start by Jose Ramirez, and the fact that he looks like he doesn't even know how to play baseball anymore. That it almost feels like a fait accompli that they're going to win this division unless they go through a rash of injuries these last 4 months, and hopefully for their sake that doesn't happen. But every time they're in these postseason scenarios, and not just against the Yankees, we'll go back to the play-in game against the White Sox in 2008, or 2 years ago, the wild card game, they lead 3-0 after a half inning and then throw it away against the Yanks. Every time that they're in these spots, they seem to crumble, have a meltdown. 2006, they get swept by the Oakland A's in the first round. I mean, you change the names, the faces, the players, whatever, the managers on the Twins. It seems to be the same story each and every single time. It doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. They get to the bright lights of the postseason, they seem to wilt. So I need to see the Twins, big spot, big scenario, step up, show a little guts, a little gumption before I believe that they're more than just a regular season team. And that, my friends, was Keeping Sports with M3 for Monday, June 3rd, 2019. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll talk to you guys again, same time next Monday. Peace.